Hey, Thriving Farmers. I've got Lex and Beth here from Providence Hill Farm outside of Toronto. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Hi, Michael.
So give us a little bit of a background of how you guys get into farming, because that's not where your background is.
No, it isn't.
No, not really. Although I have a family, way back when, family background, in the old country, farming, but ourselves, not so much. We kind of stumbled into it, being avid gardeners. So as the gardens grew, we felt that, it might be an interesting little foray to try and make a couple bucks with it. And as you well know, once you start something like that, it snowballs. And so here we are. So it's been 3 years. First year, we tried to take it out to market, but realized very quickly we didn't have the infrastructure. So I put the brakes on the whole growing part of it, and started building infrastructure, wash and pack, crop houses, that sort of thing. And then last year, for the first time, we went out to market. We ended up taking on 2 farmers markets, which was a really good decision. I know it's a tough decision, and I got a lot of pushback around that one.
Well, it wasn't our first choice at all, because we weren't sure how much the kids were going to be involved. And if it was just the 2 of us, we sort of had it in our heads that dealing with restaurants, maybe a better way to go. We thought we'd have more control over the flow and the scheduling. The more we thought about it, though, we didn't really want to be under someone else's schedule. And so doing the farmers markets, we kind of knew what our weekly schedule was going to be. So it turns out it actually suits us much better. And we've almost done everything that we can not to do restaurants. It's kind of a losing battle, though, because they come to you eventually. So
right, they seek you out.
Yeah.
So we moved onto the farm 15 years ago with the idea that we were going to do dog boarding, which was Beth's thing that she wanted to do. And because we purchased a property that had farm status, which dog boarding doesn't actually meet the criteria, but we decided, okay, fine, we'll do some cut flowers, perennial flowers. So we did a chunk of land with that.
But much more old school.
Very old
methods.
school
It
methods.
was a lot of work. We had young kids.
A lot of weeds.
It was burnouts. We did it for a few years, but it was not our best match at that time, for sure.
Yeah. So that's how we sort of got into it. So it's been 15 years out here, 12.5 acres, old farm property, 4 outbuildings, old outbuildings. So some are useful to a certain extent, others less so.
Yeah. You have a barn
and, we're half an hour north of the airport, about 25 minutes north of the Toronto airport. So we're nestled right in the midst of it, because they're building out a lot around here. It's a fairly affluent area. So this kind of thing does make sense for us, again, because we're situated in the right kind of market, where we can demand the right kind of price point for our products, and people love the whole organic thing.
Yeah, and play with being creative, because people are willing to pay for that and to appreciate that. So it's,
Okay, so you got into it, and you started last year with the farmers markets, and then you did those just this year. Do you want to share a few pictures of kind of like the farmers market, what you've been doing there?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, this was probably within our first, it may not have been our very, very first market, but it was certainly in our first few weeks. You can see we only had microgreens. I spent a lot of time packaging them at the time because I had the time. So we had those little banners on the top of the bags, and that was nice. We had a very tiny basket there of lettuce, as you can see there, and some radishes. And I think that salad greens table on the left there, I think we just had some maybe bacana or mizuna or something that we had thrown in with, just to kind of fancy it up. And I think we had some peonies maybe at this point, and that was about it. So that was our first, and we had our banner, which we made sure we had, but it was just a single stall. So that was kind of the result of probably that same market, or like we realized that there was some potential here, because we literally had 1 bag of baby kale on the table that right after we took this picture was gone. And this was probably by noon, 11 or 12.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so that was a really good thing.
Notice the bodyguards in the background.
Yeah, so that was fun. So that was when we sort of realized, okay, like maybe we can make a go of this. We're not going to sell like 2 bags. Maybe we can start to kind of get our numbers. And that's always like the big challenge, right? Is to figure out how much you want to. So that's kind of a panel of that was pretty much mid to late season. This season, we expanded both of our markets to 2 booths. We have, the tables are kind of set back on a bit of an angle. The panel kind of wrecks that angle, but it's, so we give people a little bit of a walk-in from the front of the booth, but not so much that it's, a major commitment to come in, just for the flow. And we tried to sort of set it up so that there was a flow to it, right? So that they can kind of go from one end of the table to the other and keep shopping. And I actually even added some little shopping baskets with handles by the end, because I did have, this year we really saw, especially in one of our markets, a lot of regulars who are coming every single week who are buying, $60, $80, $100 worth of groceries, as opposed to kind of the one-off, buying one thing. So that's been really, really one of the things that we've really seen this year as our second year, is that loyalty.
And that's interesting. You said that you didn't put too deep of a display because you wanted them not to make too much of a commitment to have to come in. They could just kind of browse, but just still give them a little bit of commitment.
Right. And also because I want people to see right off the front exactly what's there. I don't want it to be in shadows. This market where the picture is, it's really nice. We're on grass under trees. So on a dark day, it does get a little bit darker, and we're thinking about maybe adding some, some solar or battery lights for those late season rainy days. But yeah, just trying to make it as inviting as we can for people to want to come in.
This is probably the extent of our booth being full with all of our product lines on display. Yeah, it's probably like late July or something like that. So everything's there. Our banners are up. Our other products, there are non-farm products, as you can see, there's a few of them on the tables. And we'll be talking about that, right? Because that's a big part of our strategy. And yeah, so we also doubled our booth. So it's a 20-foot as opposed to the 10-foot for a couple different reasons. I'm going to put a shout out to Stan Bilecki on this one, because he ran some numbers about a year and a half ago on the Facebook site about the economics of running a 10-foot versus a 20-foot and how it affects income almost right out of the gate. So anybody who's running a 10-foot, if you can find that post from Stan, great. If not, take it from me. If you double your booth space, you will double your income almost right away.
It was pretty bang on, as an estimate.
It was a big deal, big change for sure. But it also allowed us to bring in extra products.
Yeah, it makes you just feel more substantial. People feel like it's actually a thing instead of just, yeah, absolutely.
And I think it holds people at the booth longer, right? They don't walk past as quickly. So, and then if someone else is shopping, there's still room for another person to be there as well. So it, yeah.
On the left-hand side, you can see we've gone, I guess it's 3-tier on this picture. So we're starting to go vertical. Next year, it's going to be a lot of vertical display. Much more so than what you're seeing now, because we're introducing, more products or more of the products that we're offering.
We want to avoid a triple booth. That's kind of our thinking, is that we need to figure out better ways of getting some modular display in so that we can transport it, but still maintain a double booth, because the triple is too big a commitment. And
yes. Yep. Yeah. So let's move a little bit into how you guys built out the farm, because you have another full-time job. It's not like you really wanted build this out as your full-time job. You wanted to build this as something you could do with the family. And so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a business. So this is not our primary income source, but we do have time on our hands that we can devote to this kind of project. And
well, that's why I laugh when you say we have a full-time job. We don't really technically have a full-time job.
It doesn't demand full-time. Yeah, it doesn't demand full-time hours, but
anymore. Anymore.
So again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. We are designated as a farm. We have farm status here, so we kind of try to maintain at least pretenses of being farmers, even if we're not like full-on farming. So we are now more or less let's say three-quarter time farming, but we built it in the way that suits us. So we are, a little bit more of an advanced age. So we're not in there, like 20, 30-year-olds, hammering away for 10, 12 hours a day. We suit, we build the whole thing to suit our schedule. We're night owls, so we're not early birds. We're not really getting up at the break of dawn to be out there farming. So everything's built around that, including the size of the farm, the type of farming that we're doing, and the type of farming we're aspiring towards.
Mhm.
One of the big features of what we do, I've already made a bit of a note about that, was that we're grafting on a bunch of other product lines which are not strictly farm related, or at least crop related. So it's not, you know, full on farming that way. Beth spends far more time, you know, dealing with seedlings, starts, and then all the other specialty products. And we'll get into some of those, you know, the dry soups, we have salad dressings, we have jellies, we have a few other things that are coming on board. So she spends a lot of time off farm making products for the farmers markets, which is in, I should make mention, it is allowable here in Ontario. So we can add those products without any hoops
as long as we're doing low risk food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that in some, you know, some states and whatnot, you can't really do that unless you're licensed. I would recommend maybe those people maybe get permits and get themselves licensed to do those products, because it does make a difference in your bottom line. Absolutely.
And we know people have done that. It didn't cost them very much, to be honest.
The other part of it, I'm just going to jump in here one more time before we move on, is the other thing that's happening is a lot of those products can be made in the wintertime. When we've got downtime, when we're not busy at all with the farm or anything like that, we can spend a lot of time building stock and inventory, which will then carry us through the market. So that's a really big one, because it really distributes the workload for us.
I was scrambling a bit this season because I was just developing the product. So I was, you know, every week I would need to make, you know, quite a few items that, could be done ahead this year.
So the point I want to bring out about this is that even if someone doesn't in the long run want to run these other products, having those other products on the stand allows you to do a double booth immediately, allows you to attract a wider variety of people, and gives you a profitable margin on these other products, which allows you to fund the farm.
Exactly right. Yes, absolutely. And we think it's very important, for at least in our context, it is.
Well, I think it draws people in too, because the things that you have, you know like the soups that we have, they're attractive to look at. And that's the other thing that we really, the aesthetics are very important to us. So when we do something, we do it in such a way that it will attract attention. And we know we have the market around this area where people can afford sort of those specialty items and a little bit more gourmet. So, you know, we started out, you know, for instance, with our salad dressings, just in small mason jars with labels. We quickly just, we realized that we needed to have more of a salad dressing type bottle. So there's a bottling company in our area. We can drive, we can pick up. So we now buy our jars there, and we buy our bottles there, and we have like a variety of shapes. We're moving into hot sauces. So we have little hot sauce bottles. And I think that's really key too, because it's a small thing to do and there is a cost to it, but we incorporate that in the price. And the labeling is really important too. People really respond to labeling, and it's amazing how much difference that makes.
So your labels, are you designing those yourselves? Did you have someone outsource that?
You know what? We just use Avery.
Okay.
We just do them on our printer. It's not perfect. The labels are not cheap at, you know, Staples or wherever you're getting them, but it is a way to control small inventory, right? So we don't have enough of one product sometimes to have, you know, the minimums on labels, although we're looking at that. There are some more generic labels that we probably will do that way. We haven't done a thermal printer. That's something we're looking at too. Yeah, it's a good option.
So let's talk a little about the setup of your farm. It's relatively small. You've gone heavy into tunnels. So talk to us a little bit about how you're set up and what that entails.
Sure. So the farm is a legacy farm. It's been around here since about mid-1800s. There are 4 outbuildings. There's a large bank barn. There's an old, I guess it was a chicken coop, something like that, rabbit hutch, but it was a fairly substantial building, 20 by 16 or 20 by 18, which we fully renovated into a 2-story building, added a sunroom attachment, and a couple months ago we added a second cold room. Our primary cold room is set up right by the driveway. So we pack it up, bring the vehicles with trailers right on the driveway, and then Saturday morning we load up and go. So that was part of the infrastructure build out that we had done.
Although too small, way too
small.
It's already. So like I would say,
I would grow it almost as you know, the day you finish building.
Yeah. So build a cold room twice the size you think you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Then some. So yeah. So we start We had originally, for the last 5 years, we've been running raised beds. I've got 35 raised beds that I built, which is, kind of loony to
Yeah.
think about it. But, just having a good
But
old
they were
time.
for personal use really before
Right.
we decided
Yeah.
to go to market.
Right.
So it made sense.
Having said that, I realized when we got to market that we could have actually gone to market with the 35 raised beds and actually have done quite well if we really dialed in what we were growing in them.
Mhm.
To just do it for money. But anyway, so we moved it on to the fields. We quickly, right beside the barn, we quickly realized that the soil wasn't really good right there. And I think you saw that. We talked about some of that.
Mhm.
So had some problems.
A lot of clay.
A lot of clay, a lot of blue clay, which is just, if you want to be a potter, it's fantastic. Come on over. But it didn't matter. We started putting a lot of compost.
Mhm.
And we had an old clunker of a tunnel that served its purpose. We had our tomatoes, cucumbers in there for the first year. Actually, even before we started marketing at the markets. Then last year, I ordered 3 Farmer's Friend tunnels, 50 footers. Got the plastic on December 23rd. We're literally working in mud, and everything was just gross. It was really gross. But we got it done. Put carrots in mid-February, and paper pot transplanter. Ground was heaving, so it actually pushed the whole paper chain out, but they had taken root. The carrots had taken root, so it wasn't a loss or anything like that. It's really not a major loss. And by mid-March, we're planting paper pot, lettuce, Salanova lettuce in the tunnels, and then some other things as the season wore on. So when we planted in the springtime, sorry, now I'm jumping to this spring, which we had 3 tunnels. We had planted a bunch of stuff outside, arugula, radishes, more Salanova. Let me tell you that it was a complete and utter bust. 80 to 90% of the stuff outside just went nowhere. I think I've seen a lot of comments online, different places around the continent, that people had this problem.
Well, every farmer knows what this spring was like.
Yeah, it was nasty. Yeah.
It's crappy. So, but what was going on in the tunnels was absolutely spectacular. Right. So literally just across the barrier from the plastic barrier, I mean, it was night and day. So that actually not only saved our markets, but it actually gave us
a big eye opener.
It was an eye opener, but it gave us a launch pad to go from. Understanding that, tunnels are the way to go. And so we added 5 more tunnels this summer, 55 footers, which the 5 feet allows for the paper pot transplanter, by the way. That was the thinking there. So so now we have 9 tunnels in total.
And you stretch them wider too. And
they're usually 14 footers. We stretch to 15. I noticed some people are stretching them up to 16 feet. Our first 3 tunnels are 14, so I'm kind of like, but it's okay. It's a little tight. It's not the end of the world, but it's nice having the 15 feet. Just for the space,
and we did build the end walls on them as well, so they've got full walls.
We have solid end walls,
double doors.
French style doors, so 2 doors opening. I am thinking that I might like to add some long tunnels, 130 footers up in the area where you saw. That I opened up, which is completely different soil. Really good soil, by the way. I walked through that when we were doing garlic up there, and I walked through that, and there's it didn't actually stick to my feet, which was the boots weren't carrying 10 pounds of clay. So that soil is quite something. It's going to be kind of fun to work in. So so we opened that up, and I'd like to put some really long tunnels in there, so my tractor can do the full length. So it's going to have a different kind of a end wall. Maybe do some indoor potatoes for new potatoes, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. That's how it's set up. Just to elaborate on the setup and sort of the future plan for the farm is that we are going completely no dig. Not only no till, no dig. I've actually got myself all set up to do the typical Curtis Stone JM 4J method with tilthers and the whole 9 yards, flame weeders, and almost right out of the gate. As I started doing that, I realized I really want to go no dig, Charles Dowding method, Richard Perkins. And I'll tell you right now, what a huge difference that is. That is a monster difference. I put the broad forks away mostly. All of that stuff is, I don't even use. I literally I put on 2 inches of compost and plant right into that. And plants are very happy as long as they have enough water. They're very happy to find their way through the soils without any kind of broad forking, anything like that. So that's kind of where this is going. And it saves a ton of labor, and you're getting the multiple benefits, of course, right? The weed suppression is huge, and just the cycle, improves because we don't have those added steps of tilting, broad forking, et cetera, and the plants are very happy. So far so good. Yeah, that's kind of where we're headed with that. Yeah.
Very cool. So now, who does the most of the work on the day-to-day operations?
Define work. So we've really divided our labor. In our younger years, we pretty much were always out there. Like even when we were doing the cut flowers, it was the 2 of us side by side in the muck, and that was great. But now because again, we don't need to make a full living off of this, so we really can afford to do it our way. And that's really what suits us. So you do the work in the field with our boys. One of our sons we hire full time through the summer, more or less full time. And so between them, they get most of the field work done. I'll go out. I mean, I help plant garlic in the fall because we needed all hands, that kind of thing. But during market season, I am really busy with all of and certainly early season with all the prop stuff. I do all the prop house stuff. I grow all the microgreens, the edible flowers.
Grafting.
I do the grafting of the tomatoes. I do the cut flowers in the tunnels. Although I seed them, but then they do the care once they're out into the tunnels. And then all of the add-on stuff is me, from the development, developing recipes, figuring out. I mean, there's a lot of research that goes into them too.
Yeah.
The labeling is me. The packaging is me. I would say the displays, the market displays. Yeah. Other than the building of the actual displays, that's you more, but the fine tuning of it. So we're actually split really evenly, really nicely.
And our son Landis, our youngest, he's 20. He works on the field, but he also works with Beth on Fridays, particularly packaging, getting the cold rooms ready, and getting ready for the market. So he does that. I have categorically last year said, or this past season have said somewhere in the middle of the season, I said, I will not enter the wash and pack. So don't count on me for any kind of help around that, because I'm so busy out in the fields with all the different things that are going on. Especially this year, we were building 5 tunnels, blah, blah, blah. Oh, still opening up new ground, that sort of thing. So I said, you know what, between you guys sort it out and get it done, and we're ready to go. When it comes to markets, actually the entire family, so we have 3 kids, so everybody's involved. They love going to the markets. They really enjoy it.
We're very lucky, actually.
Now a friend of theirs has come on board as well for the last month or so. It gave me some time to not go to the markets on Saturday and do some of the cleanup and the stuff that comes up in late September, October.
Interesting thing about that too is that we've been, I mean, like any family business, are really reluctant to bring people on. It's just a loss of control. Like you do things the way you love them. You can't even imagine which is silly, but you can't even imagine someone else doing them. And even when my son took over the wash and pack of the lettuce, I have spent the first few weeks sort of looking at what he was doing and thinking he was doing it wrong, but he was presenting a fully completed job of quality work. And I'm like, well, then he's doing it right.
Yes.
So I had to let that go. And then the same was true when our son's friend came on board with markets. We needed an extra hand one day. He was keen. That guy outsells all of us. He's
like the slap chop guy, right?
It's crazy, but not in a smarmy way. Like, he's just really genuine, and he takes
he sells very, very well at markets.
Especially the add-on stuff, like the soups and the salad dressings. And he can do it in a way that I can't, because I made them. So I feel a little bit funny pushing my own product sometimes. He can do that. And so bringing someone on was like unexpectedly really positive.
And our other son's girlfriend comes out as well to the market sometimes. So we have very good representation there, a lot of young people, which is really good. But we're, like Beth says, it's really a family oriented business, even though Beth and I started for our own purposes, just to muck around and expand our, gardening and pseudo farming stuff. The kids have really come on, not necessarily so much in the fields and working, except for the one that we've hired, but they really love the farmers markets. They love going there. They like the interaction with the people and that sort of thing. And we have very good farmers markets around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, fairly affluent neighborhoods. People come, they have money, they spend. We still have to fight it out with the other farms, I mean, for our market share.
Yeah.
But everybody's very friendly and it works out really well. And we try to stay away from the direct competition as much as we can by bringing in the other items that they don't have.
Yeah. So you've intentionally looked at what hasn't been in the marketplace and focused there.
Yeah. And avoiding things that are saturated and things that we don't grow well. You know, there's no need for us to bring them when someone else is doing them.
As you saw, cabbage.
Yeah.
No more cabbage, Michael.
So talk to us a little bit about the main products you're focused on here.
Well, for sure, like I said, I watched, I don't know, 3 years of Curtis Stone videos before I had the courage to actually do this. So it was Salanova lettuce, radishes, and that whole train of thought right there. I mean, that was it. And microgreens. And
microgreens are our biggest thing.
Yeah. So we're really into the lettuce, microgreens. That's where we got our start. People have started to recognize us as sort of the premier. If they want cut and wash lettuce, we are the go-to.
In fact, this year we even cut out heads of lettuce. We started bringing them, and then we realized that people in our markets wanted the convenience factor, and so we don't even.
Well, one of our markets has a long time established vendor. He sells a lot of
romaine, mostly.
A lot of heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not going to compete with him. He has his clients, and that's fine. So yeah, definitely Salanova. And the thing that really kicked it over for us was, or at least for me, was the paper pod transplanter. When I realized, yeah, I could do this with this tool. And then really just sort of the market garden vegetables, salad vegetables, I would call them. You're talking green onions, kale, hackerai, things like that. What else do we grow a fair bit of?
Well, all the like cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers.
Right, all the big four.
People love hot peppers.
Yeah. They love the cherry tomatoes.
Cipollini onions were huge for us. Have been for 2 years. Yeah. We do those in quarts, and people.
Sun golds. People love sun golds. And by the way, we're still looking for the best heirloom tomatoes as far as yields go, but one that we found that people should know about is the black brandywines, which yield quite a bit, quite well. People love them. And the other one that we like a fair bit that people seem to like was the Galaxy tomatoes. They're speckled. They look like some kind of a weird star or something like that. Very tasty as well, both of them. So those were some hits. We had some busts. And brandywines, you get very few on but people like them. So we like them at home, so we grow them. And peas, sugar snap, they love those. We push those things into tunnels, by the way. We want to be out there 3 to 4 weeks ahead of any other farm with those products. Peas, new potatoes, carrots. If we can beat the market even by 2 weeks, but certainly 3 to 4 weeks, then we're establishing ourselves as a player in the markets, which have several farms. And
microgreens do that too. I find that when people are starved for greens in the spring, microgreens don't sell as well in the late summer because there's just so much available, but that's a great one to have at early markets for sure. We're just looking for green stuff.
So talk to us about the value adding, because that's another part of this whole crop mix that you've really pushed and done quite well with.
Yeah, so I think we started that with just realizing that we could have fun blending our salads. So I think that was the beginning of it. So I do quite a few of what I call gourmet salad blends or special blends, where I use the edible flowers. I put some, usually sunflower microgreens in the mix. And there are several of those that I do. One I even put like walnuts and cranberries. Oh, you've got...
there you go.
Yeah. So that's sort of an early version before I had the labeling on them. And I do have some other pictures in the files, but yeah, so I ended up doing quite a few varieties. Some of them would have radish, so they'd be more of a spicy blend. Some, the really popular one was basil leaf. So I would have the edible flowers, but also a layer of the basil leaves. And one woman would buy 2 or 3 of those a week. Wow. And it's a great value add. It's a little fiddly to put together, and I have to be a little bit careful about my timing on it. But it allows us. I mean, I pack about maybe 110 grams of Salanova, into that, maybe 30 or 40 grams of the sunflower or pea microgreens. The number of flowers I put in depends on the harvest, and then maybe a few of the other things, but we sell those for $6. So it's a decent moneymaker, and I sell them out. I have people who are making a beeline for the stand for those. So that worked really well. Then I guess we started adding salad dressings, and that was probably our next move, just because people were asking for verbal recipes, like what do you use for salad dressings? So I had 3 last year. I narrowed that down to 2 just to save time on labor. So we have, a balsamic herb one, and we have a lemon honey kind of. So that went really well. And what did we do after that?
Microgreen kits.
Oh, the microgreen kits. Yeah. So that was fun. So we were, we experimented with selling the 801 trays of live microgreens, of the smaller ones this season. And people are attracted to them, but I didn't find that they were buying them as much as the bagged. So we sort of had a bit of brainstorm around, how to get people interested. And what we came up with were grow your own at home microgreen kits. So those did sell quite well at the beginning of the season. That tapered off as well towards the end, because I think people had seen them and they had bought the gifts. They really liked them as gifts. And in those, we put in, the 801 trays. We put in 4 packets of pre-measured seeds, just the really easy ones. I had a full printed up instruction booklet that went with it, a Ziploc full of Promix, and I guess, so just everything that they needed. So that went really well. And then we
wax wraps.
Oh, the beeswax wraps, because of all the plastics issues these days, and trying to kind of accommodate people on that. I did some research on how to make beeswax wraps, so we added that, and people were really happy about that. So as we started adding things, we started to realize that it just, like, the bottom line kept going up, right? The number of things people would buy was increasing as we had more to offer.
The sale per customer.
Exactly.
Sale per customer,
yeah. And then we started in on the dry soups. And I had seen something similar at another market, and we sort of had filed that away as something to try. That one took a little while, just because I had to do a ton of research. I had to have a lot of failed recipes. It was discouraging at first, and then I kind of finally figured out kind of what the proportions were and nailed it. And those have been really, really good sellers for us.
As the weather cooled in September or even late August, they start to really go. And this is where Jeff comes in, a friend of our son. Where he was like I said, he was like a slap chop guy, and just talking it up and talking about the recipes and what to do with it, and people were buying it. They were buying 2, 3, 4 at a time as they were heading into the
and I would be making dozens a week, and then he would come back and say, "Oh, I sold another 4 dozen at market." I'm like, darn it, because there goes another day that I don't know how to schedule, and and just having to make 6 dozen a week or something. But it was great, and so that's
good product. Yeah, it's a good product.
And we ended up, I think I have 5 different types of soups now, including 2 that have meat in them, because I was able to find freeze-dried chicken and beef.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, not cheap. I had to go to prepper sites. So if anyone out there has a source for that kind of thing, then let me know. But and it's not even, you can't put very much in because of the cost, but it was just another, you could do a beef and barley, and I did a Creole chicken. And so that was kind of fun.
So the most creative, I would say that the most creative way and most, let's say, lucrative way of becoming a prepper is to join a farmer's market, sell these soups and other things, so that your entire garage or basement is full of all the supplies through the winter time, right? So you're fully prepped up with 25-year supplies, of stuff.
That's so true.
But you get to sell it all off and make some dough in the summertime. So
exactly.
It's kind of a clever way, a clever slant on the whole prepper thing, right?
Yeah, keep the rolling inventory.
Exactly. It doesn't have to sit around for 25 years, that's for sure.
Yeah. So what other things are you thinking of adding?
Barbecue sauces, hot sauces are sort of next on the list. We've done some jellies, and we've done some jellies that did fairly well in the springtime. We did dandelion,
lilac, and violet. Wow. Yeah, and I did some peony, but I'm not 100%.
Sumac we did this fall, and that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the sumac was nice. We did like a mulled sumac, so it had the like some cinnamon and cloves and stuff in it, and people could use it almost like a cranberry at Thanksgiving.
Oh,
it had
wow.
The sweet and tart. That was really, really
hot peppers for sure. Hot pepper jelly.
Yeah.
That was doing well. So we're going to grow more of it and kind of different varieties and different things like that.
Those sold well. The hot sauces I've been making just, I mean, it's a late season thing, right? So I've been doing those. It's a little labor intensive. I have to figure out if it's worth, because I have to can it and then I'll have to open the jars later on and pour it off into the fresh jars that people can buy and put in the fridge.
Herbal teas we talked about. We'll probably do some of that. And, we talked about things like pickles. So basically the way that we do it is that we make a bunch of stuff, try and figure out how much time it takes and how much we can sell it for. If it makes sense, then we'll do larger batches and take it up to market.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't matter. Then we just,
Just do it for ourselves.
eat it here. So we trial a bunch of things and whittle down. Then we trial a bunch of other things and whittle it down. So, and then we also see the cycles. So as we mentioned, microgreen kits did really well in the spring and early summer, but kind of petered off. Now, those things can be, produced in the wintertime, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But we're watching the other things and the sales curve of each of these products.
In fact, the microgreen kits weren't even worth taking up space on the table later in the season. We didn't even use, because we needed the space for things that we knew would sell. So we just put those aside. So
we're hoping that the products come and go. Like Beth says, you don't keep them on there for the full duration. Kind of like when you're selling subscriptions, you kind of do your, a week or 2 weeks, and then you pull it for a month or two, and then you reintroduce it, and it creates a buzz again. And that's kind of the approach that we're taking with products as well. Introduce them during the high, peak demand, then pull them, introduce something else, pull it, except for things like salad dressings, which people want on a regular basis.
That's a weekly thing.
So
the other thing that we're looking to add in the spring, I mean, we did this a little bit this season, but we realized the potential and we'll really expand it, is with the starts that we sell at market in the spring, we're doing collections. So we'll do larger either baskets or pots of things that are sort of put together already. So one would be, I mean, a lot of people do it, but the salad pot or whatever, so they can cook their own.
Butterfly, you did want to?
Yeah, so we're doing herb one, but I'm also planning a butterfly garden. And I've already cold harvested or cold planted all of my milkweed seeds. So hopefully those I've got them out frozen right now. So I'll bring those in early spring into the prop house, hopefully get those going. So I'll have those, and then I'll add some, pollination or some nectar plants as well.
Very
for
cool.
Butterflies. And then, well, you know that I love to raise monarchs, and
You're
so
obsessed with them, if I might say.
a little bit anyway. So I'm thinking, I can put it together an information kit. It's a kind of thing where if I have information going out with these pots, sort of what to do with them and how to attract butterflies. And if you want to bring one in and watch it, then here's how you do it. Just like, I'm always trying to think of those little extra touches to put into a product.
Well, I'm wondering if you could almost partner with some of the local like conservancies and stuff to talk about, hey, if people are interested, send them our way, and like a percentage of sales goes to support them, goes back to them. So really start to bring in other people. Who can you connect with and who can you partner with on this stuff?
For sure, and have a list of contacts. And there are a lot of Facebook groups that deal with it. There are also the organizations that send out tags, so you can tag your butterflies. And so there's a lot of connection that can happen through that for sure.
So I'm going to say that it, for the viewers out there, that it might sound totally insane having all kinds of these product lines that we're doing ourselves. But if you think about it from the standpoint, well, first of all, what I mentioned is, you introduce something, you might want to pull them for a few weeks and then reintroduce them next year again. But the other thing that's happening is you notice it's kind of a Walmart approach to the thing. You want a number of SKUs because, number of different product lines, because any one particular product line won't necessarily bring in, the income that you want. I know sometimes I see online, stack them high, watch them fly. Somebody's got carrots, 8 feet up into the air, and well, they all sold. Well, that's fine, but are my radishes going to do the same thing? Are my green onions going to do the same thing? Well, not necessarily.
Well, and the other thing with that too is that our markets are small. Like we're in smaller towns, so we could put 300 bunches of carrots, but we don't have enough people to buy them. We do stack it as high as we can, sort of within the framework.
Within reason of what we think is going to sell. So having all of these different products that might sell only a little bit of this and that, really does impact the bottom line. That is what I call the Walmart method, where you have well, we don't, but Walmart has 360,000 SKUs. They don't have to sell any, a lot of any one item. for it to make sense at the end of the day. So that's kind of the marketing approach. At least that's the way I market in my business, is that I want enough product lines available so that at the end of the day, it makes sense.
Within reason though, because you don't want to burn yourself out. Like you have to balance that with stress level, right? See, we're both really creative people. We like marketing. We're projecting all the time. Like that's what turns us on, right? So for us to be, you know, developing new products, we almost can't help ourselves. Like we have too many ideas to act on. So for us, that's kind of our natural way of being. So it suits us. But I think the biggest thing that I would say to anybody starting out is like you have to adapt. You have to figure out what works for you and adapt, because if you do something dogmatically or you do something that someone else is doing and it doesn't work, you're going to be stressed. Like, it's just not going to feel good, right? So I think like for us to have the luxury of being able to play with it and actually have fun. I mean, we have stressful days for sure, but I don't think I would want to do this if we felt like it was a stressful life.
Yeah, so part of the strategy, just to wrap that point up, is that we also are working with 2 farms right now. Well, one we've been working with almost a year. They don't do their own microgreens, so they come to us for microgreens. We traded with them for different products, so we're going to try and expand that because as you well know, I've given up a few things on the field, cabbage, broccoli, that sort of thing, but that's something that they grow. Okay, so we're actually shrinking the number of different types of crops that we're doing on the field. But we want to leverage the other things that we do with other farms so that we can then swap out for products that we want to introduce.
And at our markets, we're allowed to bring in 30%.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
As long as we're producing 70% ourselves, that's allowable. And to this point, we've brought in pretty much zero. So, you know, for us to bring in 1 or 2 crops, I think we feel pretty comfortable with that. And we know that they grow with similar principles to the way that we grow. So,
very cool. So what I'm hearing too is you're saying is you've got these signature salads, which you've done a really good job of making this incredible thing, which just pulls people in and gets a viral marketing stream going. So you pull the people in. You're obviously selling the other salad crops, which are obviously giving good margins on those. You're dropping the crops that aren't great margins, but you're also adding a wide variety of shelf-stable crops that also still have high margin as well, which allow you to kind of flush that table out and just keep your creative juices growing, because it sounds like you actually both enjoy that sort of thing as well.
Definitely.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Good summary, for sure.
Very cool. So what's next?
Well,
Punta Cana.
Tomorrow we're on the plane, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
we tell ourselves if we get through the whole, we do get through the winter, we don't take any weekends off. That is next. Okay, so this coming season, we're going to plan it so that the 2 of us have a little bit, I mean, not a ton, but maybe a weekend, a couple of weekends through the summer. So that's something that, you know, through hiring and through also delegating a bit more is next for us for sure.
So there's that for sure. I know we're going to be this year at that fine line between being able to manage everything ourselves the way we've been running it and being pushed by our customer base, by things creeping out of and they already are creeping out of the woodwork.
Well, we said we're reluctant restaurant sellers, right? I mean, the restaurants come to us now.
Yeah, they're pushing us. So we're going to get pushed beyond what I would call the comfort zone line, meaning we're going to have to hire more help if we want to expand it any further. That part troubles me a little bit. We all know what that's like. Every farmer experiences the whole, I mean, I've read some posts today that just makes me just shudder, or not today, I mean this year, you know, somebody's going into mid-August, height of, you know, of the season and of harvesting, and they lose their entire crew. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't want to, that's just a nightmare. That's a nightmare that I can't even comprehend. So yeah, so it's going to be really tough to be able to manage the expansion even a little bit beyond our available workforce, and then but still wanting to supply, you know, the demand that's out there. So that's going to be a tricky one for me. But we're going to, you know, if we get pushed, we'll try it. You know, we're getting a van for the next market that'll give us ability to run 3 crews. We got 2 trailers right now, so we will be able to run 3 crews at the same time. But there are other things. I mean, one of the things we're like completely like no way is CSAs. That's just way more stress than we can put on our plate. Restaurants to some extent, depending, you know, if they're easy to work with. The people we're working with right now are fairly easy, so
They're
that's
amazing.
fine.
Yeah, I mean, they're contacts that we have through either the community or through the farmers market, so that's been easy.
There are a lot of people crying the blues at the end of the season. They want us to, you know, keep it going into the late fall, early winter delivery or you know, pick up or something like that. So
our daughter's been delivering lettuce to one client just because they just refused to give up on wanting it. So
you've been here, Michael. You know, we're not perfectly situated for farm gate, right? Even though we're very close to a bunch of small towns and really great neighborhoods, we're kind of off the beaten path. So people would want to come here and pick up. And also I should make mention that the people who we cater to in the 2 towns that we have markets in are actually not our neighborhood. They're not in our neighborhood. They're a half-an-hour drive. They're beyond our neighborhood on the other side. So we would have to start kind of at ground zero developing a market here. And it's not a great place for, you know, roadside farm stand. So we're kind of reluctant. We don't have a great outbuilding. Now we could rebuild it. So that's not going to happen probably anytime soon. But we might deliver. I don't know. You know, it might be worth it.
We've considered maybe asking the restaurant we do deliver to whether they would let us leave stuff there for people to pick up too.
Gotcha.
In exchange for whatever. So we're kind of, I mean, that's sort of our winter brainstorming stuff that we'll think about.
And then who knows where it goes from there, because as you well know, the whole thing kind of just mushrooms. This whole area is, like I said, people are very focused, you know, on the green stuff, on organic farming, and they, you know, they do respond to that whole message. So we might, you know, we might be asked to do a bunch of stuff. Who knows?
One thing we are going to try this year. We were really lucky to buy. We have a huge nursery that's been in business for decades in the area. They just went out of business and they sold off all of their greenhouse tables. So we bought a lot. We bought way more than we needed because we just couldn't let the opportunity go. So we have all of those. So the one prop house, or the one tunnel that we have that is on really crappy, I think you walked through it with all the weeds in it. We're just tarping and we're putting the tables in. And I am going to try crate gardening in those. And I'm going to do my edible flowers and herbs and things like mint that I don't want to get out of control, that kind of thing. And just see how that works. And one of the reasons for me for doing that is the raised beds that we have, that we're working with now, they're a decent height, but I'm finding that as my back is getting older, it's really hard to do that halfway bend over, right? It's just really hard. I use a stool, but it just makes harvesting that really a pain, and it adds to my time on putting those blends together. So I'm hoping that working at table level is going to help with that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so to kind of sum it up, what one thing would you want people to take away from your farming journey?
Do it your way.
Yep.
Okay.
100% do it your way. If you sleep till 9 o'clock or like just
10 o'clock,
whatever, like, you know what, honestly, do not be dogmatic. Don't get hung up on anything. Try it all. And if it doesn't work, try something else, because honestly, it's not worth the stress and the headache. I mean,
have fun with it as best as you can. I know there are folks out there who depend on it for their primary income source, but you know, try and have fun with it as much as possible. You know what, in a good area, it's not that hard to make money. I know if you're not in a great area and you have to drive, we know farmers that will drive 2.5 hours to Toronto to markets. They do it. I mean, even though there's a lot of opportunity here, you can have a lot of farmers markets even where they are. They still make the trek. So if it takes 2 hours to drive to a really good market, 2.5 hours, whatever it takes, you know, it's worth it. Now there are farmers that do it and make a very good go of it. You know? So definitely have fun with it as much as possible. Don't be afraid to try new things. And
don't be afraid to drop things. That's the other thing. Like, don't get so married to an idea that you can't let it go, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And monocropping, you know, is good too if you have good outlets, you know. Like look at Howard Prusak. I mean, I don't know how many onions he grows, but oh, and his new Christmas tree venture.
Yes.
So you know, it seems to be doing pretty well. I wish we could do it.
That's
we're legal now here, but we're not legal to grow, right? Except for personal. But you know, we're actually, when they say Canada is legal, it actually isn't. It's very tightly controlled. It's all government controlled. You can't do anything without going through the government channels. But but you can now in the States. I wouldn't say jump into that because
Yes.
there are lots of horror stories, and as you well know.
Mhm.
Well, it comes down to showing restraint, like anything else.
Right.
Like if you decide to put in 25 acres of your salad mixes, that would you'd be out of business.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you two so much for coming on today. We really appreciate your time, sharing your story. I know this is going to inspire people to, again, as you said, do it your way, figure it out, start slow, and make it a fun venture.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for having us, Michael.
Yes.
And next time you're around, give us a shout. And
We should have done this next week when we had a tan.
Yes.
I still have a leftover tan from the summer. I'm still good.